Hello! Congratulations on deciding to learn the violin. I'm going to be upfront. The beginning stages of learning the violin are really difficult. It's going to take a lot of patience, but if you take this video series at a slow pace, I think you'll do well with it. So first we're going to just talk about what the violin is. The violin is a bowed string instrument, meaning we have an instrument with strings and we use a bow to play it. So we play the instrument by resting it on our left collarbone, kind of about here. It goes under the side of the jaw. And yes, it must always go on the left side of your body. There's no such thing as a left-handed violin where you play it over here. The instrument requires use of both of your hands, so it doesn't make a difference whether you're left-handed or right-handed. So it always goes on the left side, and the left hand plays the notes while the right hand controls the bow. We put the bow on the strings, we push or pull to make a sound. When you open up your case, it'll hopefully look something like this. Hopefully it has a protective cover. Here's your violin. Ideally you have some sort of shoulder rest, which might be right here. Here we have a bow or two, and in some sort of pocket you'll hopefully have a cleaning cloth and rosin. Your rosin probably looks like this. It's light and it's in a case, or it could look like this, dark and in a wood block. Occasionally it'll be in a cloth bag like this, and on rare occasions in a really nice case like this. Before you can start playing, you're going to want to know the names of the different parts of the instrument. We'll start from the top. This is the scroll. Right below the scroll are pegs. These are tuning pegs. You can turn these one way or another to adjust the length of the strings, which affects the pitch. You have 4 strings on the instrument. The string that's the lowest string, it's also the one that's the thickest, is the G string. And then D, A, E. The E string is going to be the thinnest and the highest pitched. There is a black piece of wood right here, which we call the fingerboard, because it's where your fingers play. The other piece of wood right under the fingerboard we call the neck. That's where our left thumb goes when we play. If we follow the fingerboard, we eventually hit this piece of wood, which is the bridge. The bridge is super important. When we bow the strings, sound travels through the bridge, and then it goes to the body of the instrument, which is basically any of this part. So it travels through the body, and then there's a part on the inside, it's also another piece of wood, that is the sound post. The sound post transmits the vibrations to the back of the instrument. There are some holes in the instrument that are shaped kind of like Fs. They're called the F holes. If you look through the F holes, you should be able to see your sound post. If you happen to have an instrument that doesn't have a sound post, it's gonna sound really bad, really tinny and hollow sounding. The sound post is just a little piece of wood that's like this big, but it makes such a huge difference, so make sure your instrument has one. And remember, it's inside the instrument. You might also see a little label on the inside. This will tell you maybe what model your instrument is. It might have a serial number, it might have an instrument maker, it might tell you what year it was made. Some really cool information. Below the bridge, we hit the tailpiece. So your tailpiece will look one of 2 ways. So on this tailpiece, we have 4 fine tuners. The big tuning pegs up here let us make larger adjustments, and the fine tuners down here make very small adjustments to the pitch. These are harder to work with because they work just with friction, whereas these are a lot easier to work with. Your instrument, like mine, might only have 1 fine tuner, so you'll have to get really good at using your tuning pegs. I'm sorry. Usually to the left of the tailpiece, or maybe directly above it, you have a chin rest. We call it a chin rest, but it's really more of a jaw rest. When I'm holding the instrument, I'm not holding it like this. It's contacting my jaw. And one thing that you might not have is a shoulder rest. It looks something like this. You attach it to the bottom of the instrument, so it looks something like that when you put it on. And the shoulder rest basically helps you hold the instrument. If you try putting the instrument on your shoulder without a shoulder rest, it probably won't stay in place. But with a shoulder rest, you can actually hold the instrument without using your hands. We'll talk more about these later. And then finally, you have your bow. There aren't many parts of the bow that you need to be worried about right now. You have the white part, which is the hair. This is horsehair, or in the case of student bows, it's some sort of plastic basically. Try not to touch the hair of the bow. We'll talk more about why later. So here's the tip of the bow, and then we travel down. At the very bottom, you'll find a little screw here. It's called the screw. If we turn the screw, it affects the tightness of the bow. So right now, I've loosened the bow a fair bit. And we'll talk more about how much you should tighten it in another video. But there it is, that's your violin. In the next video, we'll learn how to tune it. See ya!